Hi, I'm Daniela Dante with April Properties, and I am here to bring you today's Wednesday Where. And my question I'm going to be addressing today is, where is the closing table that we speak of? And no, it is not my dining room table. Although with COVID, things have been a little bit different. I did actually close on my refinance at that table, but I'm going to let Michael Parent talk to you guys today from Hubbard Street Title on where the closings take place and what happens.
Hi, Danielle. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. It's a great idea. So the closing process and table is really anywhere that you and your attorney want it to be. I mean, with April and Hubbard Street Title, we're connected together, and we have our 14 office locations for April. We can close in the attorney's office, whether it be the seller's attorney or the buyer's attorney's office. We have some remote closing locations that we have, like in Westchester as well. So really, we make it for the experience for our agents and for our customers, you know, the buyers and sellers, where everybody wants to close that's convenient for them. So it doesn't have to be one brick and mortar place. We have many options for that. And that's the best part of being involved with a company like ours, that we're not just pigeonholed to just a few different locations.
It does make it nice. So when we leave final walkthrough, or if the seller has to get documents close, we can coordinate that as close to the property as possible when it's in our control, of course. Another thing I'll bring up is, you know, what do you do at the closing table? So I tell my buyers, you know, when they go, they're going to go and sign lots of pages, most likely over 50 pages of legal signature paperwork. And that paperwork is something they've seen before. They get this paperwork, which is called the closing disclosure. It actually comes from their lender. A buyer will see this paperwork when they begin their loan application process. They see revisions of this throughout the process, and then they get it again at the closing table. Can you explain why they're hard signing that, or why they get potentially even a different copy at the closing table, Michael?
Right. So the buyers and sellers each get their copy of their side of charges. And so when you're working through your loan process at the beginning, your lender is not going to have all the particulars, you know, as far as exact figures, because taxes get prorated. So when we know for sure what the specific closing date is going to be, that might change because it becomes a few days difference. There could be a little difference in if their rate was in a, you know, not locked in yet, that might change their interest rate. So it's going to change a few of those figures as well. And that's the biggest thing, is that you will get it once or twice or sometimes 3 times, because the lenders are making some changes. They then have to send it back to the title company. The title company then creates that closing disclosure, sends it back to the lender approves it, and then sends it out to everybody. Sometimes we send it back and forth with the lender 4 or 5 times because they make a few more changes, and the clients don't see that part of it. But that is some stuff that happens behind the scenes. But, you know, we work with the lenders and we try to get it, you know, right from the beginning. But we get it. It's loans, and there's variables, or all of a sudden there's a credit that's given to the buyer and the lender approved the credit. Now they're going to change some other figures in there. So those are the things that really happen, and why you're seeing those disclosures signed multiple times. And even at the table, you might have the final one the hour before closing, and at the table something changed. Now the title company is going to reissue a new one. You got to sign it again. So it has to be the final, and that's why you will see 3 or 4 times that it's signed. But it's nothing that anybody's doing wrong. It's just that it's part of the system, you know, and it has to get back and forth and approved, and just making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And that's the lookout for everybody, making sure the buyer is taken care of. So.
For sure. And I think this is another thing that's important to touch on, is some people ask me, well, how much time should I allot for closing? And this is also variable based on those behind the scene things that you're just talking about today. And so a closing can be as quick as, you know, an hour and a half, and a closing could be as long as 4 or 5 hours. And
Right.
so I think, you know, I always tell people to be prepared to take the day off work so that they're not feeling time pressured, but also to know, and you could speak to this, you know, there's multiple files going on at one time. So during those back and forth exchanges, things get placed in a queue, correct? And they get worked on in a queue. And that's why sometimes we have to wait.
Yeah, and we try to move it fast, you know, everybody fast, you know, through it. The hangups come where, when the buyers are at the table and signing all the documents, our closer then has to take those documents, scan them over to the lender. That lender on the other side, that processor, might be dealing with 4, 5, 6 deals at once. So that's where a little bit of your delay is going to come from. It depends on your mortgage company that's handling it. You know, with the April, we have Midwest Lending, and that really speeds it through. But you know, certain banks it just depends. And so when those documents are sent over to the lender, they then have to get back to the title company to let you know, yes, everything's approved, or no, we need this initialed, or we need this change on this document. So that's where the back and forth goes through. I've seen closings happen as quickly as 20 minutes, and I've had some as long as 8 hours. So you just never know. The key is listen to yourself, as you know, Danielle is your real estate agent, and she'll guide you in the right direction, because you know, there's so many loan companies out there. There's so many other variables that can be into our business, but you know, you as the real estate professional, you're going to know who's best to work these deals. You're going to guide your clients through that. And that's where it makes a difference. You know, it's not always about who's going to be the least expensive either. Everybody's going to be pretty close to each other. It's the service is what you want. You know, and I've seen it, like I said, where these delays are painful, you know, and people are just sitting there waiting because the title company is at the mercy of the lender. The title company is there facilitating that closing on behalf of the lender and the seller. And obviously on the seller side, there's not many documents to sign. On the buyer side, yes, you're waiting for all the loan packages. And as you said, your clients do have a lot of papers to sign. I've seen some sign well more than 50 documents. And I always tell them, you're probably going to have a hand cramp by the time you're done with your closing. But you got to get through them all. You know, the biggest difference, just to make sure in there, is that the note and the mortgage are right. After that, a lot of the rest of it is, if you pay, you'll stay. And if you don't, you won't. And that's really what it comes down to. So just make sure your interest rate is right. Make sure your mortgage note is right. The rest of it is all the logistic paperwork that has to be put in there. But, you know, we definitely try to move it along. We try to communicate with the client while they're sitting at the table. And that's, you know, where we're just waiting for that lender to say, yep, go ahead and fund it. As soon as they tell us to fund it, checks are being distributed to everybody, keys can be handed out to the buyers, and you're all done. So.
Yep. So that's, you know, that's when you're the official homeowner, right? So at the end, once that money is funded, meaning once your bank sends the money to the title company and that money can go to the seller for the property you just bought, you are now the homeowner. So that's when you're given a copy of your paperwork, your keys, your plat of survey, and you can go on your merry way and go check out your new home.
Oh yeah, that's the exciting part. And you know, when you come to closing, especially now during COVID, you know, we try to limit the amount of people that are coming to it. You know, so we don't put more people in an office that don't need to be there. So really make sure you're bringing the essentials, you know, signing, you know, buyers that need to be there. If you're on the seller side, the ones that are signing. I understand, you know, people have kids and stuff like that. Please try to make arrangements for it. It's hard. I've done it with my own kids, you know, in the past, and they don't understand what's going on. So it's difficult for them to sit there for an hour or two or three. But you know, the least amount of people, the better off it is. It'll make it less chaotic for everybody too. But yeah, when you get handed those keys and the seller gets their check, it's really an exciting time for everybody to move on with the next chapter of their life.
Well, I thank you so much for all your explanations today, Michael. And if anybody has any questions about the closing process, or if they're actually looking into title companies for their own sale and purchase, and you have any questions, you can confidentially reach out to me or to Michael, and I will drop his info in the comments below. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
And I wish everybody a wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.